Hello and Merry Christmas from the Travelin Show. I'm Tom.
I'm Leslie.
And we're doing our 2018 wrap-up show from our trip to Alaska. We left Ohio on May 15th and returned home on August 27th. Our camper, it's a Forest River A213 high wall. This is an A-frame pop-up. We have dual propane tanks, dual batteries, have solar power, and it weighs about 3,400 pounds. We don't use a generator. Our tow vehicle is a Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. So that was our equipment as we headed towards Alaska. But something you must have when you go to Alaska is the Milepost magazine.
Milepost is a trip planner and travel guide that covers all the roads to and within Alaska, including the northwestern states and Canada and Alaska's Inside Passage. It's updated annually and gives a mile-by-mile description of camping services, hotels, and restaurant. It has tons of information about sightseeing, fishing and hunting, rules and regulations, and places to fish, crossing the border, and facts about history and wildlife in the area. It also has tons of city and road maps, and also this cool pull-out map of your whole trip, and you cannot go to Alaska without it.
It is like the Bible for a trip to Alaska. Our first major stop was South Dakota, staying at the Badlands, Custard State Park, and Devil's Tower. We've visited Wind Cave, 1880 Town, Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse Memorial, Deadwood, and of course a must stop, the famous Wall Drugs. We then headed towards Sweetgrass to enter into Canada. Our next stop was Banff and Jasper National Parks in Canada, two very beautiful parks. Our next destination was Dawson Creek, British Columbia, the beginning of the Alaskan Highway. We reached Dawson Creek on June 4th. The Canadian side of the Alaskan Highway was in great shape. Scenery was unbelievable. We saw bear and moose while traveling in Canada. A must stop is the Laird Hot Springs. Great camping. There is a nice boardwalk to the hot spring, which we saw our first moose. The hot springs have bathrooms and changing rooms. Once we crossed back into the U.S., the Alaskan Highway was a little rough for about 20 miles, but nothing like the horror stories we'd read about. On June 9th, we reached Tok, Alaska. We stayed a couple nights at the Sourdough Campground, where I won a free breakfast with the famous pancake toss. We had traveled 3,919 miles. We visited just about every place there was in the interior of Alaska. We spent the 4th of July watching a parade in Homer. Of course, no fireworks because of 24 hours daylight. We attended the famous Girdwood Forest Fair Music Festival in Girdwood. We spent 5 weeks in Alaska and drove an additional 1,636 miles. These are the miles that we actually pulled to the camper, not miles driving around seeing the sights while the camper was at the campground. Wanted to show you our trip we spent in Alaska. We were here for 5 weeks. Here we came up into Alaska on the Alaskan Highway. We started at Tok. While at Tok, we went up to visit Chicken, came back down to Tok, all the way to the Delta Junction, and that is the end of the Alaskan Highway. Then went on up to Fairbanks, down all the way through Fairbanks. We did the trip into Denali, traveled this road on the bus. And when we left Denali, we came down here. We came back this way, maybe about halfway, and then it's a gravel road. We turned around, went back, traveled on down through Wasilla. We camped there, and we went into Palmer, on down. We camped here at Whittier, And well, actually, it was a campground south of there, but it's that area. And we traveled all the way down to Homer. We took a boat on a trip to Seldovia. Came back from Homer. Went down to Seward. Back up. And this is a ferry route here, but of course we didn't take the ferry. Back up. Spent some time at a festival in Girdwood. Came all the way back up. Crossed the Glen Highway. And all the way down to Valdez, where we did a trip. Valdez, where we did a trip out into Prince William Sound. Then we went back up there, back up to Culver City, and then we took the Toke cutoff. Here we are back at Toke. Our return trip took us back to Toke and back into Canada to Whitehorse, where we took the Cassiar Highway south. We returned back into the U.S. into Bellingham, Washington for a stop in Seattle. Our next stop was Olympic National Park, then down to the coast of Oregon. We worked our way to Bend to attend a wedding of some wonderful friends on August the 11th. After the wedding, we began our trip back to Ohio. But first, we had to stop at Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons National Parks. We spent about 10 days in Yellowstone. It is our favorite of all the national parks. We arrived back home on August 27th. We were in our camper 104 nights and 105 days on the road. Our total miles on the Jeep was 14,994. Our total miles on the camper was 10,484. Our total fuel cost for the trip was about $3,250. Overall, the roads were in great condition. We had no breakdowns, no flat tires. The camper held up great. The Jeep had a broken windshield, which we were expecting. Leslie won that bet.
Of course.
I thought the Jeep windshield would get broken on the Alaskan highway. She said before, she won.
Always right.
The Jeep did get hit in Anchorage in a parking lot, did some damage to the bumper and the license plate, but nothing that some duct tape and screws didn't fix. We got those repaired later on after we got home, but overall the trip was fantastic. Scenery was just spectacular. We met so many people on the way making the journey to Alaska. If you like traveling by ground, I would highly recommend this trip.
And just because the Alaska trip's over, don't give up on the Travelin show. We will still have more videos. And just, if you've not subscribed, please subscribe now. And if you have any questions, feel free to post questions and we will answer them. And other than that, have some happy holidays.